to the first PlyFly support session. I'm Tim.
I'm Dave.
And we're going to go through a list of questions. We're going to wait for a little bit to see if anybody else joins. And to see why it just auto-launched in the background. So this is our first session. We're clearly going to have some technical issues, some organizational issues. We're working through this. But hopefully we get this today to a point that it's very usable for all of us. There's an application built into this when you're participating live or beforehand on the invite called Q&A, where you can type in a question and then we can click when we answer it, and it will automatically populate the YouTube video afterwards with hyperlinks so that you can click to the particular point in time when that question was answered. We will, hopefully, we'll count on the ability that we can edit this after the fact, and we're gonna wait around to see if some of our backers join. I know that number 14 was thinking about it, and Stefan and Z as well. So we will wait for a second and gather some other stuff. Hopefully the audio level is okay. I'm a little freaked out because we have 0 viewers, but we will take care of this. Excellent. Yeah, might be frozen. So we're going to do this. We have 2 camera capability. We have a portable camera, which is mounted below the monitor that we're using. And then we have the camera built into our laptop. And we're going to use that camera for some close in as we go through some of the detailed items. When we're moving it, there's, you might want to close your eyes. There will probably be a little bit of motion sickness. They're not, these cameras are not intended for that. If anybody knows anything better, we're open for input. So I figure we'll wait another 2 or 3 minutes and see if anybody joins, fill the dead air with the agenda. So our plan is mounting of the drawer slide to the steering rack. Then we're going to go through how to add the locking pin to the seat frame. This is a template that will be available on our website later today. And then let's see what's next. Then we're going to adjust the brake caliper. We will then terminate and mount the throttle cable to the 4-horsepower engine. And we'll also talk about the wheel slipping in the 12-inch wheels, the wheel slipping inside the tires, and then the throttle linkage on the 2.5 horsepower as well. So it does appear that we have another viewer. We have a viewer. Dave, would you mind logging off on that, because it's probably eating bandwidth? Sure. So. I don't know where the control, here we go. All right. Great. That viewer might actually be me on the same computer.
Tim Baker checked in.
Oh, great. Well, welcome. Welcome to anybody that's here. If there's nobody here now, welcome to anybody that would join in the future. Actually, one thing that we'll do before we get going is, would you mind rejoining and just making sure that the audio is high enough? Sure. If you need some headphones, I can give them to you. I think the latency is too high for us to get any bandwidth issues or any feedback issues, excuse me. All right. So great. So we've got somebody watching. I think if it's Tim Baker, welcome. If it's one of our other backers, welcome to you as well, or just anybody from the wild. It's good to have you. So again, the agenda is we're going to go through the mounting of the drawer slide. Then we're going to go through the drilling of the hole for the seat frame, and then we're going to go through the adjusting of the brake caliper, and then we're going to go through the feeding of the conduit. So when you're mounting the drawer slide, you have essentially two parts. This will be a sub-assembly at the time with the other rack, the other forward-facing rack that actually interfaces with the steering wheel. We're just using a part so that we're not wasteful and we end up sending it out. So we will mount on the bottom of this, and then we will mount on the top of this. Just why don't we scoot over a little so I'm outside, and we'll mount on the top of this, just like you folks will. Again, we're not going to go any further other than mounting it. There are a few tricks. It seems that the best adapted way is not the way communicated in the instruction manual. In the instruction manual, we have you mount it and then feed screws up through this slot down here. It seems as though people have found a better way, and we're happy for that. So you'll need the bag of screws, small bag of hardware that comes with the kit. It's got more screws than you need, and a Phillips screwdriver, and then the drawer slide.
Yeah, the first thing you want to do is actually there's a rubber stop in here that you don't need if you were using it as a drawer slide. It's to hold the drawer closed, but since we want full range of motion, we don't need that.
There you go. That's great. And you can show a close-up view if I get closer.
It's this part here, right on that. We'll just pull that right off. So then, as Tim said, the easiest way to do this is actually you spread open the drawer slide, and right here is this little lever. You push that lever down and actually separate the drawer slide. So you have two pieces, and the larger piece is actually still two pieces, gets mounted to the large bottom part, and this will get mounted to the rack itself.
Yes. So that's the secret sauce. That's what everybody has found as being the big hurdle on this step, and separating those seems to be the way to get around it. Would you like to do the camera or sync the screws? Okay. It's foolishly in a axisymmetric housing, so when we position the drawer slide, you can see you line it up with the 4 holes right here. You want to shoot down a little. So you can see, it takes a second to focus. You get it over, get it lined up, and there's 4 holes. We want to put screws in each one of those. This is pretty easy. It's just sinking screws. Again, these are the screws that come in a special hardware packet just for the drawer slide. We do recommend driving these in by hand. The pan head screws are not necessarily the best at using a power driver, so we think it's best to put these in by hand. You might actually, I tighten that one down. You probably want to get them all close to tight, and then go back, make sure alignment's okay, and sock them down. Generally, when assembling anything mechanical with a bolt pattern, that's a that's a good way to go. You just, you get them all most of the way there, and make sure everything's where you want it to be. Eliminate the float, and then tighten it down. So again, 4 screws on this side. So once you get all 4 in, kind feel around, look at it, make sure that it's lined up straight. It's not super critical, but it will make a difference if you get it lined up. Good. We've got 3 people watching. Hello. I don't know. We're not able to see any feedback, and we just dropped the 2. So if people are trying to ask questions and are unable to, we apologize. We'll work it out in the support forums after. Say again. Yeah, I'm also, my computer is up, so you're welcome to email tim@flat.works or info@flat.works, and we will check. Yeah, is that right? Yeah. So this is the right rubber. No, like this. Yeah. So we just went through an alignment question of our own. Here, can you get the face down? So next, what we're doing is we're going to flip it this way and slide it in. So we should be right. Yeah. Okay. So we're going to take the top piece of the drawer slide and put it down on top of, well, on the bottom of your steering rack. There's 4 holes. There we go. Those are good shots there. You can start at the outermost edge and just align that one, and then you'll know that it's in the right spot. A little nerve-wracking doing this live. You know, if I mess something up, well, correct me if I'm, if you know I'm obviously doing something incorrectly. And again, you want to tighten them most of the way down, and then we'll tighten them all the way down once we get all of them in place. So. Hole spacing feels a little off. All right, so once they're in place, just line it up and try to make it parallel to the edge of the rack. Tighten them all down. And we're good to go on that. So with the rack assembled now, well, not quite assembled yet, but with the 2 sides of the drawer slide slid on, you want to line these up and just slide it into place. And there you go. It will, we've gotten some questions about this, it will drag to this far extent. You mind showing this side over here? It will drag a little bit. That's okay during, give it a second to focus. During normal operation, its furthest extent is right here. So we never actually encounter that regime. So it goes this way. There we go, like butter. So, all right. So I'm going to set that aside we can return to that if there's any questions, emailed or otherwise. All right, so I'm going to mark that question as done. And then now we're now going to address we're now going to address drilling the hole for the seat locking pin. We apologize for this. Something happened in the G code, the program that runs our CNC router, where none of these holes got drilled. And when we actually found out about that, we kind of panicked and we reworked every bit of stock that we still have. And so we don't actually have an example of a seat side without the hole drilled in it. But well, we have it on the flip side, but the template is on one side, and we only want the hole on one side because it helps differentiate left from right in the instructions if we ever need to use that. Do you mind turning that around? So this is the half sheet of 3/4, and so you have your left seat side over here, which you do not need a hole in for the locking pin, and then you have the right side here. You can tell just based on the slots. And that's where the hole is supposed to be. I do realize that this was a bit misleading because some people have been putting the pin in and thinking that we were, I don't know what it would be, but using the swing of the seat and its adjustment, and that the pin would be in the right place to lock it in. But we don't want that. We want a very positive seat lock. So our design intent has always been for the pin to go through here and then into one of the holes on the sidewall. Again, we deeply apologize for the fact that that wasn't in the parts. We will be posting this template on our website later today. I'm trying to figure out how to get the contrast right. So what this is a 1-to-1 layout for the side of the seat right there. There's instructions on this. The instructions are fairly simple. They say, print the template with no scaling. The no scaling is really important because if it does scale, you won't really necessarily detect it because we really want to align on a corner. I'm searching for a credit card. Here we go. Hopefully the resolution isn't that good. But so what we've done here is we've placed a rectangle on the template. That's supposed to be the same size as a credit card. We've kind of lifted this idea off Stride Right with their sizing chart. But so you can tell whether it printed out to the right scale or not by just placing a credit card on top of it. And if the credit card fits precisely, then you've printed out at the right size. This did print out, so with no scaling at all. So the instructions are: print out the template with no scaling, confirm scaling with a credit card, trim along the edges marked with scissors, tape into place, and then drill the hole at the red dot. Red dot means a little bit less when you use a black and white printer, but so, apologize, we have some fans going in here, so so the pin that goes into this hole is a 1/4-inch pin. However, it doesn't actually, it's a 1/4-inch pin with a locking ball detent. However, the locking ball detent is not locking on this hole. So we would actually encourage you to use a slightly larger drill bit. If you have a 32nd or a 16th bigger, that would make adjustment of your seat easier in the long term. You can see we've trimmed. We'll tape this in place, and with luck, the hole's in the right spot. Hold that for 1 second, please. So any type of tape will work to hold it in place. we're doing this now while it's still in the assembled, well, the as shipped configuration. Of course, you can do it on any part whatsoever, but so that puts it right there, and then you want to just drill that. Should we drill for the sake of clarity?
Sure.
Okay. You want to grab a
drill?
Yeah. So I'll bring this a little closer. So you can see the template's position. The hole should be drilled right on the center, right there. And then you can see that this hole is already drilled. Sorry about that. This is the square for the credit card, and then the instructions are printed right on it. The link for this, our forum software does not allow you to post PDFs. So the link for this will be posted in the forum, and it will be served off our website. So. Mark what, the hole?
Yeah.
Well, the holes are.
Yeah, I know.
For good process.
So a good way to make sure that you get the hole precisely located, just take one of the screws that come with the kit. You should have plenty of extras. But if you just take one of these, and it's a little bit easier than trying to locate it with the drill, but you can find the exact center, especially with these nice self-tapping screws, and just do a little tap. It obviously went in a little bit more easily since there's no wood paper there. But that's a good way to spot the hole. Then you come in with the drill, and it will already have a nice location on there. And then you just go ahead and go right on through.
If not, 1/4 inch, while kind of moving the drill a little bit would suffice just fine. The camera's working out pretty well. So hopefully that's self-evident now. So we're going to move on to the next question, which is the brake caliper. So adjusting the brake caliper is a little bit tricky. There's a few things that we probably should have highlighted. We didn't necessarily want to because we were fixing manufacturing defects. So the flanges that came back from the supplier, most were crooked. So the axis of our rotation was not orthogonal to the flange. That's why when you look at your brake disc flange, you have two sides. You have a painted side, and then you have an unpainted side. It's important that you attach the brake disc to the unpainted side because that side is now orthogonal to the axis of rotation. So, you know where the brake discs are? So that's without that, what you'll get is you'll get wobble of your brake disc as it spins around, and it'll drag on the caliper. And our caliper doesn't have enough play to accommodate that, both in actual braking and also for clearance. So when you you attach it on this side so that you can see the paint, and that the unpainted side is on the other side, and then that goes up into the caliper. So Dave will take you through adjusting the caliper. Is actually a pretty neat little thing. We're out of replacement stock on them right now, but we have a shipment of several hundred coming in soon. We do realize that there'll be a wear item, but we're taking that into account and prepared for it.
So we had a few customers, emailing us saying that they have the brake disc installed in the cart. They went to put the caliper on, and it wouldn't fit over the disc. So you can see that space is not large enough between the brake pads. So the way to adjust that is, so first you want to, if you look at it from the top, the two larger chrome Allen heads are pretty easily adjusted by hand. You want to take those and make sure those are roughly aligned.
Can you make sure it's centered in the, there you go.
So that would be this one here and this one here. You want to make sure those are roughly aligned so that they're in about the same place. Because the two different sized spacers that we use to mount it to the go-kart take the angle into consideration. And so these really want to be the same. Now to adjust it, once those are adjusted equally, you can, on this side is what looks like just a nut, but that's actually, the nut is actually a locking nut for the set screw that actually goes in. That is the adjuster for the caliper. So you first want to use a wrench, loosen that up just a little bit. You don't want to go too far, otherwise the whole caliper can fall apart. But so once you do that, you use an Allen.
Do you know what size Allen?
This is, I do not, but we can measure that. So use the Allen right in that set screw.
It's going to be a metric Allen wrench.
And you can actually see if you can see it while I go. And as I back this out, you can see that inner pad is moving. And so you want to go basically as little adjustment as you can while still keeping the disc. So yeah, if you slide that in there, you can see it. It's pretty snug, but it does slide in there. And then once that's adjusted, you want to re-snug the locking nut. You use your Allen just to hold it in place.
Yeah, if you don't use the Allen to hold it in place as you re-snug the nut, you run the risk of then tightening that back up.
And just snug that down, and then the brake is adjusted.
So a few things to note. One, this brake is a spare that we had because it's the mirror image of the one we use in the kits. So the adjustment is the exact same, but if you look at it and you think, oh, well, my arm was on the right and this is on the left, that's why. And we have a few of these. We have more of these around than we care to admit. And then the other is that you can adjust this in situ when the cart is assembled. So if you want to at a later time tighten it up or loosen it up, if you think it's dragging a little too much, you're capable of doing that. We'll drag a cart over and look at the back of it and show you exactly where you can do that. Just a note of caution: this is the brake, so we think that it's very important that we get this right and that you guys get it right. So if you need anything at all, if you need any support for this, please please let us know and we'll help you in any way possible.
And the sizes on the tools are a 2.5 millimeter Allen and an 8 millimeter wrench.
So great, thanks, Dave. Why don't we roll the cart over and then we'll just show adjusting it on the cart as well.
The brake, sure.
Yeah.
So again, use wrench to loosen up the locking nut. You don't have to go too far. Once that is loose, you might actually have to use the wrench and the Allen at the same time. Make sure you're spinning one and not the other. And Now I'm actually tightening this up a little bit. This was a little bit loose. So I'm just going to quarter turn on that.
Dave drove this cart around at the track at Lime Rock this weekend,
Yep.
Lime Rock, Connecticut. So,
And then, so I'm holding the Allen, snugging up the nut to lock it in place. And you can actually see once it's tight, it's actually pulling on the arm there a little bit. So that's how you know it's snug.
pulling on the arm, meaning that the arm is.
It was rotating
Okay.
like it would if you were pushing the brake.
Oh, great. Oh, I got you. So yeah, because you're jamming the two threads together. So then and of utmost importance is to then test the functionality of your brake afterwards. There you go. All right. So we will be going back to that card in a second as we adjust. As we adjust the throttle cable. But Stefan, I don't know if you added a question or not, or oh wait, hold on a second. So we're gonna be done with this question. So I'm gonna go to. I'm answering Stefan's question now, which is, seems that I'm seeing you on YouTube and I don't know if I'm counted as a viewer. How do we actually log on so that you can see us? The short of it is that this week we don't know. Well, I thought that it was my impression that if you went through the YouTube link, that you would just be watching us. If you went through the Google Plus link or the Hangout link, that we'd be able to see you. I apologize. I don't know. I don't know the difference there, but we'll do a few dry runs with each other throughout the course of the next week, and for next week we'll have that sorted out. But Stefan, whatever you did to get that question up there worked. So if you have others, please keep them going. I believe that was entered through going to the Google Plus event page and clicking the Q&A icon in the upper right-hand corner of like the little video window, and then hitting submit. So. All right, so the next question that we'll go on to is we're now going to answer the question about how do we terminate and mount the throttle cable and the conduit for the 4-horsepower engine. We're not going to go through the full process, but what we will do, we have an installed throttle cable. So what we'll do is we'll take the backside out, we'll pull the full throttle cable out of it. And then we'll put it back together, essentially live. So this one will take a little bit of time. So if people have other questions or whatnot, feel free to email them in while we're going through this. I am checking both the info and the Tim email address for questions. I do apologize. It'd be great to actually see and virtually meet you guys, but perhaps next week. Okay, so we have 2 cable conduits on your cart. They're going to be red and green. On this cart, they're both green. It's this was before we did our quantity orders. However, this question is going to affect the green one. We'll do a quick overview of what it looks like when we're done, and then take you through actually doing that. The throttle linkage is fairly complex and tucked underneath the muffler. So a few things to keep in mind. One is, be very careful working on this if you've just been driving the cart, because that muffler is going to be hot. The other thing is it might be easier to take the muffler off, the whole exhaust system off, to get access to it. You can do that by just unscrewing these 2 nuts right here on the exhaust header.
We're actually, when we go through, we're going to do that. If you have smaller hands or maybe a better tool to get in there and hold things with, go for it. But for us, it's a little bit easier to just pull the muffler right off, and it's a 30-second process.
So, Dave, you want to pull that off, and I'll take them through the. So, at the front of the cart, we have the two terminations. I keep getting turned around here, but we have the two terminations. The brake has the zinc ferrule on the pedal. The throttle has the cable clamp. Your cable clamp may look slightly different up front here. I'm going to take that off while we're up here. Thank you. And we'll actually use a new cable because this one's had a long life already and is a bit frayed. And we stand relatively little chance of getting that back through the conduit. So then, the conduit wraps down underneath the seat. Sorry, I'm working on the rotation here. And then back out through the window, through the slot cut, up through the fairing, and then the back. This is kind of hard. The display is mirrored on our side, so so it makes it very difficult to level it. So right here, we're gonna loosen the cable clamp, the conduit clamp. Excuse me.
We'll pull this off first. So,
okay.
If you see these two nuts, just loosen those up. They come right off. There's a lock washer. Make sure you don't lose those. And then you just kind of rock this back and forth a little bit, break it loose, and that comes right off.
Don't lose that gasket.
Yeah, make sure you're careful pulling the gasket off, and set that aside. So now you can see there's a ton of space up here to work with. So the conduit clamp is actually in the hardware kit. It was not attached to the engine when you got it.
Those are supposed to be, we apologize for that as well, but those are supposed to be part of the engine kit. So if you pull that conduit out, and then we're going to pull out this throttle cable, and then we'll feed a new one back in. So this might be a good time to actually show the construction of our throttle return spring too. I mean, this is a point of safety as well. Certainly, if you don't have a strong enough throttle return spring, then your throttle can get stuck open. So we really encourage everybody to know where the emergency cutoff switch is on the other side, and then and be able to do that. But this throttle return spring is pretty beefy, so that should not be happening.
And if you are having trouble, the way these engines come from the factory, they're actually used for single throttle settings. So what will happen is the throttle will actually be much stiffer than this. In order to fix that, just use a wrench, loosen up this lock nut just a little bit. You can play with it while you're going and loosen it up and then adjust it, slowly tighten it until it starts to stick, and then come back. You certainly don't want that to stick. Like I said, so that will be that nut will be tight when you take the engine out of the box.
All right. So as Dave was saying, our conduit clamp comes as part of the hardware kit. So when you're putting this together, the first thing you want to do is install that. And then you want to grab your throttle cable. It's on the floor right over there.
So throttle cable should be in the kit. And it'll be wrapped up together like this.
Again, your kit will have a green and a red conduit.
And you'll also be installing the conduit as well as the cable.
That's right.
This up pretty well.
It does have a nasty way of poking out of the box if you don't get them wrapped up perfectly. So, and these are standard 1.77 meter bike cables. We do that for a variety of reasons, but they're easy to replace if something happens, need be. And we will, we don't currently have a stock of every part, but we have a stock of most replacement parts. And in the future, we will have all replacement parts. So the first thing we want to do is feed this through the hole. I know some people have been curious about which hole it is, and it is the little hole right next to the hole that the throttle return spring goes in.
So obviously you've got two ends on the cable. The barrel end is going to be what stops it from pulling through. Like Tim said, you should take the I guess clean end of the cable through that little hole, and it might be a little bit hard to get started
To turn that corner.
but once you get it going, make sure you don't get caught up in any other parts on there. But once that's started through, you can kind of work it through, and it helps if you relieve some of the
Yeah, you probably want
strain on.
to both feed and pull. So two-handed operation.
Pull that through. Make sure the barrel sits tight on there. So now that's through. Now the next step is to go to your conduit, the end, and you're going to slide the cable through the conduit. This cable had an end on it. I don't think the ones that we shipped
No, we stopped.
do.
They weren't actually doing anything.
So same idea, slide it right into the conduit. Because you're going around some kind of tight corners inside the side fairing there, at some point it might be a little bit tough, but you should be able to push it right through. So you see it just kind of hit a little spot there that was a little bit tough.
So then as you're getting tighter and tighter, that's when you start to find the home for the conduit end.
So this actually, let's see, you actually are going to want to have the front fairing off at this point.
Oh, yes.
So let's pull that back off.
Because due to the softness of the wood, it won't find the small hole at its termination on its own. So you have to kind of guide it through.
So as you see, the conduit's right here. But we're going to pull that out of the locating hole. Slide this through until you can see the cable poking out. Then it's also easier if you don't have the sheath zip tied in there yet, but we'll make do. And you gotta work it into the hole there, and then it'll come through on this side.
It is tight with these cables. We do know that.
This might have actually been a cable.
I think it might have been a longer cable.
Yeah.
So if we have to trim the conduit a little bit here,
Yeah, I think we do.
Okay. Well, this is useful because our manufacturing tolerance on the cable length of the conduit is not that great. So sometimes you'll have to do this. So what you do is you just pull enough cable out of the conduit that that it's not anywhere near the end.
Safe way to do it all.
Safest way to do it is all the way up. Yes, that's right. And it's not a big deal to rethread it. They're pretty darn easy. You make sure to grab the awl too. The blue and black handle ones?
Yeah.
I think they're over by the garage door. So we're fortunate enough to have special clippers for these. But you don't need them. It just saves a little bit of cleanup at the end. So that should be plenty. So cut the ends. So the way these are constructed is that there's both there's an internal layer of plastic with polyethylene, very slippery stuff, and then there's a metal flat coil wrapped around it, and that's what actually supports the load. And then there's an exterior sleeve that gives you the hoop strength around the flat coil. So once you cut it, sometimes what happens is that the coil collapses on itself, or that the polyethylene inner tube collapses. So if you just take an awl or a small Phillips screwdriver and open up the end, you should be fine. So then you have to pull slack from elsewhere in the system. We really reefed down on those cable ties. So you'll see when it sticks out now, as Dave's feeding it through, we're going to have a lot more length. So there we go. So we probably trimmed a little more than we had to, but not a big deal. The most important thing when running these cables or the conduit is to ensure that you don't kink the conduit in any place, because then you'd have a real hard time dragging the cable through it.
And I just pulled that back too far.
As Dave says, it's a little easier if you do it before you put those cable ties in.
All right.
So then you just feed it through the hole.
Make sure you pull all the way up on the gas pedal. Otherwise, you may not have full throttle actuation.
It's like the poor man's governor, right?
Yeah. And
It's back over by the muffler.
so we'll actually have enough slack on the back. Yeah. So we're gonna go push all the way up on the pedal, but we're actually gonna leave a little bit of space here, and then we'll show you the final adjustment on the back.
As Dave says, this can change how much available throttle you essentially have. It's not that big of a deal on a throttle, but it's a very big deal on the brake. So getting the whole concept of adjusting this is a worthwhile thing. So now we have the front clamped in. We have the ferrule, the zinc. I don't know if ferrule is the right term, but the zinc knob on the end in the right place. So what we have to do, I'm rotating around a little bit. So now what we have to do is secure the last remaining thing, which is the axial position of the green conduit.
So you want to make sure that when you're not touching the gas pedal, that you don't have any throttle actuation. So when you're doing this, it's very important to hold the throttle off which is towards the front. So when you pull the throttle cable, it's going to pull this lever towards the back of the engine. So you're going to push that towards the front, and then take the sheath and pull that back a little bit so that you've got all the slack taken out of the cable. This is almost a two-person job, but see, and then tighten down the conduit clamp. You don't want to over tighten this, but you want to tighten it enough that it won't slide. If you over tighten it, it'll actually restrict the movement of the cable, and it could, in theory, lock the cable on, which could cause the throttle to get stuck. And the last test you want to do is to make sure you have full throttle. Pull it up against the screw, and that screw may or may not be full throttle when you get it. You can adjust that. That's actually a good way to adjust the speed if you want kids to be going a little bit slower. There's this screw right there. But just go ahead and pull it and make sure that the cable has a little bit left before it hits the conduit.
So would you go, and then the next test is to actually use your brake pedal. So, or gas pedal, excuse me. So Dave's pulling down on the gas pedal. One more time, Dave. Perfect. All right. So I see we've got a few more questions posted online, so I'll start sorting those. Dave, do you mind throwing that muffler back on?
Sure. Don't forget the gasket when you put that back on.
Yes, do not forget the exhaust gasket. So we did get one of our backers just put in that he recommended heavier zip ties or wire ties for holding the conduit in place. We did see that. We bought, so our production ones are smaller than these, but are supposed to be higher higher tensile strength. Perhaps they're not living up to their billing, but thank you for that input. We'll probably do those, double down on those later. So I'm going to finish this question. Thank you for the input. I'm just going to select that and then be done with that. And then we also just got feedback from somebody that said that they realized that they put the cable in the reverse direction.
Which is possible, but it is significantly easier when you go in this direction.
So Stefan, I see that you emailed me a bunch of stuff. I'm not going to try to actually handle that on the air this week. I feel like I'm not going to be able to do that in a seamless enough manner. I do know that he was saying that he had some issue with the rack separating, so he used a small bit of the pre-finished 1/4 inch under the back of the rack to keep it from going down. That's a pretty handy repair that we have done on a prototype before. So if people identify that as an issue, then we'll put a how-to together for that. So and if that's the case, then we'll address it next week or later this week. One thing that I'd like to say too is that we are looking for the best timing that works for everybody. We realize that this is a job for us, and this is a fun pursuit for other people who have jobs, and we do not want to be like a bank. So we do want to find the time that works for everybody. We're fairly flexible. Though Tuesdays seem to work pretty well, and we can also switch them around. We're running up on about an hour now, and 2 hours seems a bit ambitious. Seems like 2 hours might work for really long repairs, or if there's something that we have a lot of questions about. But this hour length seems to work quite well.
And I'm sure we could put together a time so that it would be more readily watched by those on the West Coast.
Yes, that's true as well. We're happy to come in late. We're happy to come in late and do this late for us.
Yep.
I think that's not a problem at all. Trying to think. We're also happy to arrange individual Google Hangouts if that helps. It's very important to us that everybody gets their carts together and working to their satisfaction. And it's also really important to us that we support them through that process. Certainly, we're grateful for all the pre-orders and all the Kickstarter backers, and that's helped us really bring this thing to life. And we also realize that we foisted upon you the not beta testers. I mean, we like to think that these are pretty well done, but some units that were missing a hole or two, some units that we're having some slipping in the 12-inch tires, and a few other things. So we will I'm going to type in some questions so that we can. I don't know how to do it while we're loading. So we're going to discuss two things real quick. We're going to discuss the slipping on the 12-inch wheels, and then we're going to discuss the throttle linkage on the 2.5 horsepower. So why don't we discuss the 12-inch wheels first? I'm going to grab a section wheel. So first, we want to apologize for that again. We tested when I went back and looked at the weather logs, and we tested when it was about 55 degrees out. And we really believe that the slipping of the wheels is due to the thermal expansion of the rubber. Well, it's a combination of the thermal expansion of the rubber as compared to the steel, and the fact that that they weren't built with enough interference, enough clamping load. The manufacturer has admitted as much and has said that. So this is a cross section of the wheel. Ignore these screws for now, but this is a cross section of the wheel, and you can see that there's relatively little interference here and there. Of course, we did cut this in half, and the hoop strength went away, but we do believe that that's what's happening. We plan on addressing this through a twofold solution. One is to epoxy. I don't know if you can see or not, but we've tested a whole bunch of different epoxies on this for adhesion. And what we have found is that as long as you use a small piece of emery cloth or sandpaper to break up the skin, because this is a skinned polyurethane foam tire, so you can see that the outside is skinned, but inside it's just the foam. So if you come in and you use a little bit of emery cloth to just break up that skin, then this one particular high viscosity, high flow, sure, epoxy works very well. It gets down in between. We can get a full bead. So we'll be sending out kits to everybody that have packets of this epoxy, a few syringes, some gloves, some mixing vessels, and tongue depressors. And then what they will also have is some of these self-drilling screws, kind of a belt and suspenders approach. But we did, we sectioned this to see what the difference is. And you can see that the inner one is not grabbing that much tire, but the outer one, there's no way that would slip. So we will include a number of these in the kit as well. Although the cart that Dave raced 2 carts this weekend with epoxied wheels, and we saw no slip. So
no slip and no signs of the epoxy breaking off from the wheel or the tire. So
it's we do apologize for that. The second part of our addressing of that issue will be when we get suitable 12-inch wheels back in as replacements. We're actually kind of out of the Kickstarter batch, and we're working with our existing manufacturer and another manufacturer to find a suitable replacement. And when we do find suitable replacements for those that got the first batch of 12-inch wheels, we'll give you a pretty substantial discount on that. We appreciate everybody's feedback. That was not. We drove the carts in early June and then really just put our heads down and concentrated on getting them out.
Yeah.
So, but we will address that, or we are in the process of addressing that. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is discuss the 2.5 horsepower throttle linkage. You mind just rolling this back, and then we'll roll this one in.
Yeah, I didn't get a chance to twist that around yet, but
it's okay. I like this livery the best.
yeah.
So on our 2.5 horsepower, we had some bad process. We drilled a hole in the thumb tab for the throttle here, and we forgot that we did it. We thought that it came from the supplier like that. So that's what our instructions call out. That's what we were counting on. So if you want to fix this issue, all that you have to do is drill a hole right there.
Really anywhere in this tab works. Probably the easiest way to do it is to remove the arm so that you can get a nice flat, put it on a nice flat location to get that hole drilled.
So this is how it comes from the manufacturer, and you can see that there's no hole there. So anywhere on that flat that you would want to drill, you're welcome to. We will come up with either a hardware-based solution for this, or an additional part, or else drill these, take some of these off engines, drill them, send them to you, and then have you send us your parts back. We will come up with a way to address this by the end of the week. The other thing is, if your engine did not come with one of these clamps, you have to let us know, because we'll get the engine manufacturer to get one of those out to you. So.
And while we're here, might as well look at the return spring on the 2.5 horsepower engine. Does not have, so there's no tab that comes with it, because this one has provisions for an extra return spring. So you actually just clip it right on that hole down there, right on this hole up here, and that's plenty of tension to have a good throttle return.
All right. I think that's through our agenda for today. Let me just go to the forum real quick. And number 14, I see you just added me to Google Plus. I've got like 3 different accounts open, so I will reciprocate that when I figure out how to do that. Let's see. We're going to go to the support forum and see if anybody's posted anything there, and then if not, we will say good day and log off. I think, what would be great is if everybody did go to the forum and post anything. If you have feedback on this particular session, or if you have questions that weren't answered. Certainly, there's a few things that we want to work out. It's funny. It seems like we're communicating with you, but we have no feedback thus far. So it could just be we could just be talking to an empty internet. But we do need to figure out how to get you guys back in for live feedback. It would be great. I think this is a great way to do a fun little online community and to be able to resolve people's issues quickly. We certainly don't want people sitting at home, butting their heads and cursing us against an issue that we think we can address relatively easily. And with the exception of maybe the wheel slipping, we think we can address most things pretty easily, most things that have come up so far. But if you could post it to, if you could come up with anything, post it to the forums. I think, I appreciate I'm pretty sure everybody who's on here has contributed to the forums. You know, we're really grateful for that. I think it's great. If you're having a problem, then odds are somebody else is having a problem. And if we can answer it through the forums, it can be archived up there for everybody to share. I think. Do you want to cover the detaching of the oil of the oil level switch?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, we can do that quickly.
Here we've got the 2 engines out. Figure we'll do it on the 2.5.
Sure.
So sometimes people report tooling around in their cart and the cart just shutting off, the engine just shutting off. That is because the oil level switched. And so when these engines are primarily intended for water pumps and generators and stuff. So when they take turns, sometimes that switch forces them to it forces the engine to shut off when the oil level switch. So the oil level switch is it's this lower one, and really to disconnect it, that was laughably easy. But all you have to do is unplug it. We would keep these wires bundled. This is just what it does is it just grounds when the oil level's at a bad. It grounds, so then there's no spark that goes through the spark plug. So it should be fine that this hangs free, but it's always a good idea with an unused electrical connector to wrap it and zip tie it and secure it. But it's nice these all stay insulated. So,
and you could also pull this out and put a plug in there too if you really want to get it completely removed. And obviously you do want to check your oil regularly, and if you're having that issue, that's probably the first thing you want to do. Is check to make sure you have enough oil. But what happens is with these, like Tim said, they're not necessarily designed with the intention of driving them around, and so oil sloshes to one side or the other, and the sensor sees that there's no oil where it is. It's actually an oil level switch, not a pressure switch, since it's a single cylinder engine. There's not much pressure there, and so it'll when you're going around a corner one way or the other, oil gets away from that switch and it thinks that there's no oil.
Right. So, and then I just got a message from one of our backers who's put the pictures of his cart up on the forum. He's asked for more pictures up on the forum. I think that's a great idea. Let's we used our social media feeds extensively during the Kickstarter, and frankly, we've just been too busy to attend to them. And I think we need to get those going again. So if anything that you guys wanted to share on that, guys and girls want to share on that, that would be great. And then, Josh, to answer your question, we can do sticky threads. So, email us offline with any ideas. I could just make the thread that you started sticky as well. So, well then, let's see. Anything else? Hopefully this all works, and when we're done, this archives to YouTube. Otherwise, Dave and I will have to repeat this in a lonely.
There was one question I saw on the forums that was resolved, but regarding for the single wheel drive.
What are you looking for? There's some bearings in there. There should be. Here, I'll grab a bearing. All right. So Dave's right. Several people have emailed and asked about, well, when you mount these bearings on the angled wall, how do you then get the shaft to go through it? And what it comes down to is these are on spherical seats. So if you, actually this one is kind of already pre-crooked, but in a, you know, in a different direction. But I don't know if I'm going to be able to.
Yeah, so once that's on there, you can actually,
you can just use it as leverage to.
once it's bolted down, it's,
yeah,
it's easier. But,
it's really hard to hold something that small. So there we go.
so that actually does move in there, is intended to move in there.
Not quite that much.
Once you break it loose, it goes a little bit easier.
Yeah, so that's these are intended to take plus or minus 5 degrees of misalignment, and we have like 4.6. So it's a good idea to go through that. So we'll hyperlink that afterwards.
Sure.
Okay. Well, thanks to everybody. We're also, you know, any technical issues too. I'm kind of adjusting the gain of the microphone on the fly. Other things like that. Any annoyances, please don't hesitate to let us know. But we will talk to you all soon. We'll do this again either later this week or probably more likely a week from today.
Yep.
So thanks. We appreciate your support, and please pass the word. We want to sell as many of these things as possible. We do have a new kit that should be debuting in about 2 weeks. It's a simple one. It's a balance board, and we'll next week or the week after maybe we'll premiere it on this. We're waiting on one manufactured part for it. So, well, great. Everybody have a great Tuesday. So please feedback to the forum about time, about technical specifics, about any questions that went unanswered or any inadequate answers, and anything else that you have to add. So thank you very much. We will be in touch. And if you need anything at all, I'm Tim at flat.works.
Dave at flat.works.
And then info@flat.works. We'll get to somebody. So thank you very much. I hope that worked.